Trent Condon alongside LeShun Daniels back with you again on Locked On Hawkeyes. A look at the football offseason and what the last week has been. The benchmarks that Iowa has to hit, 25 points per game. We'll get into that and a whole lot more today on Locked On Hawkeyes.
Our Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in once again to the Locked On Hawkeyes. I'm Trent Condon. That's LeShun Daniels. And thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen each and every day. We're available wherever you get podcasts. You can also see us on YouTube. While you're there, hit that subscribe button. It helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/Locked On today to get started. Well, LeShun, it's been a couple of weeks. Appreciate you hopping on once again. Schedules weren't met well, but we're ready to go here. And what a week it has been for Iowa football. Boy, there is plenty to talk about. How you been doing?
Doing good. Yeah, it's just been crazy few weeks. Just getting back in the swing of things for the new year, and just happy to be back on the pod today.
Well, looking forward to a big conversation. We're going to talk a little bit, kind of what the players are going through right now, but want to dig into what we've heard here over the last week and start with the latest news from the other day as they put some benchmarks in place for Brian Ferentz to maintain his job. The contract will be terminated if he can't hit two very simple benchmarks: 7 wins. I didn't know that was the goal of Iowa football, but apparently it is when you have Brian as an offensive coordinator. And secondly, 25 points per game. Not 25 offensive points per game, just across the board, 25 points per game. So that's where we are. Well, I think you can tell already where I stand on this one. Your takeaway when you saw those numbers the other day?
Yeah, I was a little surprised. I'm gonna be honest, I was a little shocked. Just because of the benchmarks that they chose for that. I mean, for really a couple of different reasons. Like, for starters, first off, like 7 wins. I mean, that's not entirely decided on by your offense or whatever. Obviously, the defense and special teams is going to typically do a great job. But I mean, a lot of different things happen throughout the year. So 7 wins seems like an odd benchmark. And I know that's not something that we ever really strive for as a program. Obviously, every year we strive to firstly win the West, win the Big Ten title, and then wherever it takes us after that, when whatever the next games we have after that. But yeah, 7 wins is never something that's on our table as what our goals are. I mean, usually whenever the one year we did win only won 7 games, it wasn't a fun time in the complex. So that's why it seems like such an odd benchmark. And then 25 points per game. I mean, granted, it's not great. It's not a real high mark to reach. I think is like 25 points per game average is like 80th, I think, in FBS football, around there, which again, that's not anything above average. But that said, 25 points per game. Last year, Iowa scores 25 points. I think they would have had a record of 11-2. But you can't think of what could have happened. It's just focusing on the future and what now. And I feel like 25 points is just I feel like there's other benchmarks I feel like that you should have to strive for as offense versus just that. And obviously, again, like you said, 25 points is, again, that's a part of a collective team thing. Like, it's not 25 offensive points. There's a lot of different factors that play into scoring throughout a football game. And obviously defense and special teams have done their fair share of that over the past several years.
They're not very difficult marks to hit. And with Iowa, with the schedule they're going to have, with the team they're going to be much better offensively. I mean, a huge upgrade at the quarterback position. offensive line can't be worse than it was a year ago. Caleb Johnson now for another year under his belt at the running back position. And LeShun, we're really excited about his future. And he's got a chance to be just a dynamic playmaker back there. Wide receiver, again, another position that can't be worse. And then a tandem of tight ends as good as anybody, certainly in the Big Ten and maybe across the nation when you combine Eric All along with Luke Lachey coming back as he becomes an upperclassman. You have all these things come together. They're going to be better offensively. So my question is, why? This isn't something that satiated the fan base. In fact, it pissed off the fan base, I think, even more. So why do they do this? Is this Gary Barta? Is this Kirk? Why come up with this? Why put this out there? Did they think it was going to help?
To be honest, I honestly have no idea. I feel like I definitely feel like this probably had to have been a Barta thing, but I don't want to make any assumptions. I'm just taking a guess and just spitballing right now because like it just seems odd to put that out there and let everyone know like, hey, this is exactly what he has to have to obviously keep his job. For Coach Brian to keep his job, and you're looking at it, it's like everyone's gonna know like exactly where you at, where you stand, and I feel like that's only just gonna add to the pressure that you already had in the building to begin with. And then yeah, like you said, it only made the fan base more upset because it's like those marks again, like you said, they're not anything out of this world. There's no reason why a Power Five football team shouldn't be able to hit those marks, especially a Power Five team in the Big Ten such as Iowa. So it's just like, why even bother like putting that out there, letting the entire world know, like, yeah, this is where we stand. This is where we're at with Coach Brian Ferentz and his offense as a whole. So I don't know. I just thought it was strange. I thought it was just odd timing as well. It's just everything around it was just weird for lack of a better term.
A week ago, there were very pointed questions towards Kirk during the press conference about Brian. I believe it was Scott Docterman of The Athletic asked, what makes Brian a good coach? What makes him a good offensive coordinator? And Kirk didn't answer. Instead, he said, well, I'd lump him together with Phil and LeVar. Well, that's not what the question was. There were very pointed questions, and Kirk wouldn't answer. And this is a spot that we were. And when you put your son in the role that you are, there has to be some kind of accountability, yet Kirk doesn't want to answer that. That's the way he runs the program. We've talked about this in the past, LeShun. Don't say anything in press conferences, right? Don't give anything to the media. Don't do anything like that. So we know that's going to be something that, frankly, they do seemingly every single time. But that's the frustrating part. Gary Barta is supposed to be his superior. And I guess that's what it is. This is Gary Barta showing the fan base, hey, I am doing something here. I am doing something. I am actually being Brian's manager. I guess that's what it is, but it's difficult to wrap your mind around all of that. What about the press conference last week? I'm sure you saw some clips or maybe read through the transcript. What did you think as you were going through there and reading it? Because another one that led to a lot of frustration, certainly in the fan base.
Yeah, with that, it's another one of those things where it's like, obviously, Coach Ferentz was trying to kind of cool everything off, try to create some, I don't know, maybe inspiration, motivation. Like, hey, like we understand where we're at as a program. We understand kind of what things need to be done and how to get it done. We're obviously working to get that stuff done. And obviously, he tried his best to, I guess you would say, win the press conference, right? You can't really win a press conference, but that's what he tried to do. And frankly, I mean, there probably wasn't too much that he was going to be able to say that was going to make everyone be like, just rah, like, yeah, unless obviously he was just like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and make significant overhaul staff changes on the offensive side of the football and so on and so forth. And obviously we knew that wasn't going to happen. So, looking at the press conference as a whole, I mean, there wasn't too much that Coach Ferentz was going to be able to say that was going to change everyone's minds right now, I guess, where the program is at. So I wasn't really expecting too much from Coach Ferentz, to be honest. Like once he talked about hey, there wasn't going to be any staff changes, it was just like, okay, like there's not really much else from him that I'm going to be expecting for him to say that's going to sway the minds for everything. Obviously they're in a part of the program, part of the offseason right now, where they're really taking a long, hard look of what they did last year and a bunch of things that didn't work and how to fix those things. And see, he kind of talked about that a little bit over the past couple weeks, and throughout the media. So as we move forward here, it's just going to be interesting to see how this sort of stuff starts to develop, what changes they start to make offensively, how they start self-scouting each other themselves, how they start looking when it gets in the spring ball and moving forward, because you see there's a lot of work that has to be done. And Coach Ferentz mentioned that in the press conference. And you're, as a fan base, it's going to be one of those things you want to see significant improvement versus last year, because obviously, like you said earlier, it can't really be worse last year offensively than
Yeah.
what we were at. So
They're going to get there. It's going to be better. We're going to talk about what we expect to be better next year. We're also going to talk about what if something happens and we don't get to that point. The future of Iowa football. If they don't hit these benchmarks, not only is Brian gone, is Kirk going to be gone? We'll get LeShun's thought on that as we roll through here. This is a Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at we got the Super Bowl right around the corner. The only app that you need for your party is FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. As you can tell, we're excited about our news betting partner here on Lockdown because, well, they're the #1 sports book in America, FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, even better. So many great features they have, make betting on sports fun and easy. Download FanDuel now, and you can bet on Super Bowl 57 with a no sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel lets you bet on everything from the money line, point spreads, who will score a touchdown, a huge prop menu, anything that you could possibly imagine. They have it over there at FanDuel. The FanDuel Sportsbook app is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Best of all, you get paid your winnings instantly. Join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/LockedOn to claim your no sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. Again, FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Trent, Condon, and LeShun Daniels back with you again here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes listen every day. All right, LeShun, what another comment that I have had over the last day or so, and that's if they don't hit these marks. Let's say a Cade McNamara injury. We're not wishing for anything like that, but things happen. It's football. And they don't hit the benchmarks. And Iowa, how about this? Iowa has a nice season. They go 9-3. They don't get to the championship game, but a nice season. They're 9-3. They average 24 points a game as opposed to 25. And Brian's contract is terminated. Does Kirk stick around? Does Kirk come back for another season knowing that? That's something that is sitting here in my mind. If ultimately, because of these and things that are put in place, we know this is Gary Barta's doing. I mean, he wanted to show the fan base that, hey, I'm doing something here to make them happen. If they don't hit that for an injury, for whatever reason, and they even have a nice year, could you see Kirk Ferentz saying, nah, the hell with it. I'm out of here. My son is fired. I'm not going to go through this again. I'm not looking for another offensive coordinator, because I certainly can envision it, LeShun.
See, that's the thing. I honestly don't know. I mean, I know Coach Ferentz loves our program. He loves football. Obviously, he spent a big chunk of his life at Iowa. So it would be something. It would be very, very interesting to see kind of where he would go after that. I mean, let's see, that would be something very, very tough to go through. Obviously, it's been tough on both Coach Ferentz and Coach Brian over the past few years, just around the offensive side of the football program. And I'm sure that they feel pressure, week in, week out, just kind of mounting whenever the offense doesn't produce. And I know it's not something that he's enjoyed. That's for sure. I know that for a fact. He hasn't enjoyed the way that they performed. And I don't know. I don't know if he would just flat out walk away. I mean, obviously, it's getting to that point in time where, I mean, I would be shocked, obviously, if he coached another 10 years at Iowa, but you never know. But yeah, I mean, you make a good point that hey, if Son does get fired, and you finish off on a good note, like it could be a situation where it's like, hey, like I can go out like this, like I can leave the program like this, and then leave it to the next guy. But I don't know. Coach Ferentz is a person who is very, very prideful, and uh he's always going to want to right the ship and obviously end things on the way that he wants to end it, versus on someone else's terms. So like you said, if they don't hit the benchmarks, uh obviously he's probably going to feel some type of responsibility for it, and not possibly not want to end it that way. But like you said, if he does have to fire Son, his contract does get terminated, who knows, maybe it's something that him and the family won't want to go through. But I don't want to make any assumptions or anything like that.
Players are going to be upgraded. Quarterback's a huge upgrade, and we've gone around and around in our conversations last year, LeShun. I've been doing it for 3 years as him as a quarterback. They need an upgrade, and they have it. Offensive line is going to be better. They go into the portal, get a couple of players, look like two guys that are going to come in. One's going to help a tackle, another one's going to help inside, either center or guard. There's going to be improvement. Plus, the guys that are around and come back for another season have just that, another season of it. When you look at what the offense is schematically, though, and we've seen this now for 6 years, the one thing that I continue to talk about, and obviously, X's knows a whole lot better than I do, is it just doesn't feel like the passing game marries with what they're trying to do with the run game. The route trees that they run, what they're doing in the passing game schematically just doesn't work with Iowa. I know you're limited at times with wide receiver and protection and all those different things. I know they work hand in hand, but do you see some of the same things where just at times it doesn't feel like what they're trying to do both in the run game and the pass game, they work together real well?
Yeah, no, you make a great point there, because yeah, there's no, like, the offense doesn't flow. And we've seen it a bunch of times throughout the football season. And a lot of times it's really like you see the scripted drives, usually like the first 10-15 plays of the game offensively, they look pretty good, like they look decent. It's like, okay, they put together a drive, they go down, they at least move the football, they're not ending up 3 and outs. Maybe they even get a field goal, or if in rare circumstances score on the first drive, score a touchdown on the first drive. And then it's like after that, uh it's almost like it almost feels like they're doing coach suggestions, like off of Madden. Like that's what it feels like sometimes. Like just the plays just kind of seem like random, and it doesn't feel like they're really building off of each other throughout the game. And when you look at it on the first drive, it's everything's kind of hitting on a bunch of cylinders. Obviously, there were some games here and there last year where it wasn't that way, but there were times where you saw the first drive and they're moving the ball, they're humming. Run game's working, ball's coming out fast, they're completing passes. Um, and it looks like a regular offense. And then you get into the game, and then the other team starts making adjustments, and then after that, it just feels like yeah, it's just like just things aren't mirroring together. Whether it be, hey, we're trying to run outside zone plays, and then we're trying to come off of that, and we're trying to take a deep shot down the field. Just the things don't marry real well at all. And I feel like that's something that they've got to look at. And that's something they've really got to look long and hard at, because you can't just come out and have a good, first 5 to 10 plays, and then after that, not be able to produce. And that's a big reason of issues of why they weren't able to move the football and score points last year. And obviously, yeah, there were injuries. Line play wasn't great. Wide receivers were down to like a couple scholarship guys out there on the active. So yeah, there's a lot of trouble there. But yeah, like you said, like the plays, sometimes they don't mirror well, and there's times where it does, when it feels like they're humming, and there's other times where it's just like, yeah, it's almost like you're picking plays out of a hat, and you're almost trying to be too smart versus just doing what you know how to do best, and letting your players go out there and play fast, um, to produce points. So that's kind of where I feel like where they were at last year, and let's hopefully this year with the uh, insert of new players and potentially better players, that they're able to do a much better job with that.
No doubt about it. Well, we're going to take a look here at the offseason as we wrap up. What are these Iowa football players going through right now? We always hear about the offseason. That's where games are won. And, well, they are going through it right now. LeShun's going to fill us in on the details. What's happening in Iowa football as we continue on Locked On Hawkeyes. Trent, Condon, LeShun Daniels back with you one final time here on Locked On Hawkeyes. All right, LeShun, let's get into it. These guys are going through workouts. It's February. Now, right now, it's not freezing cold, but there are plenty of those cold days. You're getting up. So, what's a typical day like in the life of an Iowa football player as a setup currently? Getting up, going through the workout during the off season before we get to spring football and you got practice to get to and those kind of things. What is the off season kind of playing like for these guys?
Yeah, so right now, this is probably the most chill part of the entire year. Um, yeah, this part is definitely the most chill part of the entire year of a student athlete, life of a student athlete. So you get back, school started, school gets started. Um, and then like as far as like your workouts, all the lifting groups are in the morning. Um, and depending upon how your schedule is will depend on when you lift. Usually there's what we did 6, 7, and 8 a.m. groups or something around there. It was probably like 6, 7:30, and then 9 a.m. groups. I usually try to make sure that I was in the latest group, so I set my classes a little bit later, so I didn't have to get up early. Like you learn that early on in your career. You're like, yeah, as a freshman, you're usually in the 6 a.m. group, and then after that, you're like, that's the worst. So you're like, yeah, I got to make sure I move my classes so I'm able to go to a little bit later groups. And then lifting program is like the first couple of weeks, it's really focused on GPP, which is general physical preparedness, and that's just obviously getting things back. You haven't been lifting in about a month. You really haven't been working out, so now you're trying to get back into lifting, strength conditioning mode. So we'll do like a lot of sled pushes, tire flips, ropes, all the typical cliche stuff you see
Mhm.
around, football program training. And then after that, then we really start getting into heavy lifting and a lot of speed work. And that's basically like in the mornings. And then you obviously have classes most of the day. You'll come back in the evening for a training table, and then usually maybe once or twice a week, players will get together and just watch a little bit of film, or we'll run routes with the quarterbacks and catch passes and things like that. Because like right now, the coaches can't really be involved at all. So like a lot of the stuff is player led or strength conditioning led at this point in time. So right now, yeah, this is the most chill part of the entire life of a student athlete, but it's a lot of work. This is part of the year where usually a lot of your youngest guys are going to make the biggest gains strength conditioning wise. Guys are going to put on a ton of weight if they need to add weight, or they're going to get a lot stronger and a lot faster. Basically from this January to late March strength conditioning phase.
Good stuff there. Well, a good fill in and kind of what these guys are going through, getting ready for next season, getting ready for spring football. We'll see what that looks like when we get there. There'll be a few reports. We'll hear some things. We'll, of course, also get to see the team out there, hopefully for a spring game or a spring practice that's open to the public. Always fun to see the black and gold out there hitting helmets one time out there during the spring. LeShun, a lot of fun. Big week setting up here for Iowa basketball. The men take on Purdue on the road, the number one ranked team in the country, coming up on Thursday. 5:30, it'll be the women against number 2 Indiana. So a couple of huge basketball games, and what a fun week it was, both men's and women's last week on the hoop side of things.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's been great. Obviously, it was awesome watching Iowa beat Illinois the other day. That was just a great day. And then Caitlin Clark's been on a just complete tear, just absolutely just lighting it up. What she had like the last 2 games, triple doubles, and then
Yeah.
one was like a 40 pointer. I mean, they've been they've been firing, and she's been playing like the best player in the entire country. So yeah, it's been exciting week for Iowa basketball, both on the men's and women's side. So let's hope that we can continue that momentum. Obviously, they got some big matchups this week. Going to play the number one team At Purdue is not going to be the easiest task at all. But hopefully they go out there and they put out a good showing, and then the girls have another tough matchup against Indiana again, going to their place as well. So it'll be an exciting week, and you just hope that you see some continuing encouraging basketball play. So because we're getting closer and closer to the tournament, and you want to be firing on all cylinders when you get there. So
no doubt about it. Hey, LeShun, as always, great catching up with you. We'll do it again next week. All right.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
Thanks again for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Make sure you check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. Everything you need to know about college basketball in one place. Hear from our big name experts, the insiders, coaches, and players. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get podcasts. Well, great stuff from LeShun today. We will talk to him when I get back from vacation. Coming up tomorrow on the show, we will preview that Iowa-Purdue game, break things down. Biz is going to stop in. We'll get his perspective on things. For LeShun Daniels, I'm Trent Condon. We'll talk to you again. Go Hawks.